Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new Carnage gaming video. Today we are going over the FaZe Clan Valorant Invitational through all of the agent, viewership, and map statistics in order to show you guys the new meta, how it's evolving for North America, and exactly what happened in this tournament, because there are some super surprising statistics that I am sure you did not know about during this tournament. Now, this has been the biggest tournament to date. FaZe Clan put this on in cooperation with Valorant for the Ignition series, and let's go through a couple of these statistics. So, the first one we see is the number of times each map was played. It looks like Ascent was the #1 map, played 27 times, and Haven, being the least played map, only played 16 times. So it looks like teams are going to be practicing Ascent a little extra because these tournaments are really favoring it. And next up, this is the actually interesting part. It's the agent picks by map. Now, there's a ton of info here, so I'm going to break it down for you. Right here where you see the agent and the percent, this is the overall pick rate across the entire tournament. So the reason that they found this is to figure out exactly how many times this agent was played, divided by how many games they played. So for instance, Cypher, let's say 100 games were played in the tournament, well, 92 of them had Cypher. Realistically, 154 of them had Cypher in, so about 170 games total were played. But that isn't the most surprising one. Cypher is a pretty common agent to be played a lot. The surprising ones kind of come whenever you scroll down. Let me know which ones you guys notice, and if you're surprised by any of these certain ones. For me specifically, I have to say that Sage is the most surprising with only a 57% pick rate. The meta is actually evolving way far away from Sage, and Jett is above her. More people are picking Jett than they are picking Sage, especially on maps like Ascent, on maps like Haven. This is kind of a crazy pick, kind of a weird difference to have, because we all thought that Sage was going to be meta, going to be played in basically every game, but it turns out that's not actually what has happened. Now here at the bottom, we see Reyna and Viper at the very bottom with barely any picks throughout the entire tournament. That's not too surprising. I mean, I would expect more Reyna play, but as a team, there's just not much that you can do with her. And then the craziest part of this, while I was looking through going over this before I started recording, Sova didn't get picked a single time on Split. This is just such a weird disparity that I found, that not a singular team picked Sova a single time on Split. This didn't happen with any other agent the entire tourney, except for Reyna and Viper, who were literally picked 8 times and 7 times. Sova was picked 110 times, and not a single time was it on Split. That's absolutely insane to me. And also, it's interesting to see that on Ascent he was picked a majority of the time, along with Cypher. So using this knowledge, you can actually pick your agents with your team a little bit better. Now, these pro teams have spent the past weeks working on team compositions, working to figure out what map favors which agents. So honestly, this graph right here is probably going to be your best bet at deciding who to play with on which map. If you're looking for a new main, pick Cypher, because right now Cypher is obviously the strongest agent by a large margin. We can easily say that Cypher is the strongest because of this 92% margin that he does have. That is absolutely insane. And then also we can say that Viper and Reyna might not be as useful if you are trying to get into those higher levels. Now here in the middle, you can kind of tell by which map. For instance, I believe Sage is a good example of this. She got picked 14 times on Haven, 19 times on Ascent, but 37 on Split. So obviously Sage is very strong on Split, but not as strong on some of these other maps. So go ahead, decipher this yourself, figure out exactly what you think is going to be a good team comp. You can honestly kind of do some math and figure out what the most optimal team composition for each map would be. Now, for what I think is the fun part of this video, the viewership stats. Now, viewership for Valorant obviously impacts me a lot, considering I make content on the game. More viewers the game gets, more money I make. I'll admit, I'm pretty excited about it. So with this tournament, the overall average was 65K. Now you might think this okay, so you're either gonna have two perspectives on this. You're either gonna think this was a ton of viewers, or that it wasn't hardly any. Now, we don't really have much to compare it to for a lot of reasons. One of them being this was an NA tournament with no European teams in it because of the whole situation going on in the world right now. So 65K, honestly, I think is really, really good for the tournament, especially considering it was live for 33.6 hours. So it was a really long tournament. And if we look at the actual important games, such as the Grand Finals peaked at 170K viewers and averaged at 120K. Now, something to keep in mind, these stats don't actually factor in other streams that were watching or casting this. For instance, I watched Myth during this tournament because his commentary was hilarious. It was a great stream to watch, and he had, I think he peaked at 40,000 viewers. So if you add that 40,000 into the 170,000, that makes it peak at 210,000, not to mention the other probably 20k viewers on other streams that were watching it. So really, we got to take these numbers with a grain of salt and inflate them a little bit. So the average, I would say, was probably closer to 150k for the grand finals, which is really promising for future tournaments, especially since the prize pool for this one was only 50 grand. Now, I know 50 grand probably seems like a lot, but the players are only getting paid a couple grand for that win. So, I mean, realistically, 120,000 average for the grand finals on one channel is super promising for tournaments, especially whenever they start having even more build up to them, even more hype, and even bigger prize pools. And we can also see by team. So by team, I mean, honestly, nothing too crazy here. The reason that these are so far off, Sentinels and TSM, I don't think necessarily they're more popular teams, maybe by a little bit, but it's because of this grand final. Since they played in the grand final and the winners final, they're going to have a higher average and more hours watched. I am surprised to see Cloud9 so low though. Cloud9 had barely any average viewers, and they didn't really make it to any of the important games, which probably makes sense why. But overall, I think that it's some cool statistics, and that is all that we have for this video. Overall, these are the viewership statistics, everything pretty cool. I think it's a cool little graph, cool video idea. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below for the FaZe Clan Valorant Invitational. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.
We deserve it, we put the work in. We came together like a Sunday service. Patiently waiting, it made me nervous. I got demons and servants, they steady lurking. Mama told me I had greater purpose. Ever since I was little, I wasn't certain. I got to searching and I found it worth it. Look at my life. Look at my life. Feel my pain.